You know what's interesting about obstacles? They look very different depending on which side you're standing on. From one side, they look like walls. From the other side, they look like stepping stones that got you where you are. The secret I want to share with you today is simple, but powerful. You can choose which side to stand on right now. You don't have to wait until you've actually overcome the obstacle. You can act as if you already have. I've spent decades studying success and failure. One of the most powerful things I've learned is that your mind can't tell the difference between what's vividly imagined and what's real. When you act as if you've already overcome something, your brain starts to create solutions instead of dwelling on problems. That's the key that unlocks doors others find closed. Some folks say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the truth works the other way around. You'll see it when you believe it. That's not just a saying. That's how life actually works. Now, I'm not talking about fantasy or make-believe. I'm talking about training your mind to operate from a place of victory rather than defeat. There's a huge difference. When you act as if you've already overcome your obstacles, you tap into resources, creativity, and confidence that simply aren't available to someone stuck in worry and doubt. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how different your thinking is when you approach a situation with confidence versus approaching it with fear? Everything changes. Your posture, your voice, your ideas, your energy. Acting as if you've already won doesn't mean denying reality. It means choosing which reality you want to create. The principle of acting as if is one of the most powerful tools for personal transformation I've ever encountered. It's been used by champions in every field. Before they were champions, they acted like champions. They practiced like champions. They thought like champions. They made decisions like champions. And eventually, the world couldn't tell the difference between them acting like champions and them being champions because there wasn't one. Here's what happens when you master this principle. Your actions begin to align with your highest vision, not your current circumstances. Most people do the opposite. They let their circumstances dictate their actions, their thoughts, their expectations. That's like trying to drive a car by looking in the rear-view mirror. Acting as if means deciding in advance who you're going to be and how you're going to respond, regardless of what happens. It's deciding that you're going to be the kind of person who finds solutions, not excuses. It's deciding that you're going to be the kind of person who keeps their word, especially the words you say to yourself. This isn't pretending. This is practicing, just like an athlete practices the swing, the shot, the move thousands of times before the big game. By the time the pressure's on, they don't have to think about it. It's who they are. When you practice acting as if you've already overcome your obstacles, you're building neural pathways in your brain. You're training your subconscious mind. You're programming yourself for success instead of failure. And your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. It just follows instructions. Success leaves clues. That's why I've spent so much of my life studying successful people. What I've found is that they all use this principle, whether they called acting as if we're something else. They see themselves as capable before the evidence is in. Look at any great achiever. Before they had proof they could do it, they acted as if they could. Thomas Edison acted as if he could create the light bulb through hundreds of failures. Walt Disney acted as if he could build impossible dreams when everyone said he was crazy. Mother Teresa acted as if she could make a difference when the problems seemed too big. The interesting thing is that these people weren't just lucky or blessed with some special talent the rest of us don't have. They simply understood something fundamental about human potential. We become what we consistently do. If you consistently act like someone who can overcome obstacles, pretty soon you are that person. I want you to think about someone you admire, someone who's overcome great challenges. How do they walk? How do they talk? What questions do they ask themselves? How do they handle setbacks? I guarantee you they don't spend much time asking, "Why me?" or saying, "I can't." They ask different questions. What can I learn from this? How can I use this? What's the opportunity here? Study these people, not just their results, but their thinking patterns. Because if you adopt the thinking patterns of successful people, you'll start getting successful people's results. It's as simple and as difficult as that. You know what most of us do? We see a challenging situation and we immediately think of all the reasons we can't handle it. We build a case against our own success. We gather evidence for our limitations. We remember every past failure and project it into the future. And these mental barriers aren't real. They're constructs. They're stories we tell ourselves. And if we can tell ourselves limiting stories, we can just as easily tell ourselves empowering ones. The quality of your life comes down to the quality of the stories you tell yourself. When you act from a place of capability, your mind works differently. You see opportunities others miss. You find resources others don't. You persist when others quit, not because the world treats you differently, but because you engage with the world differently. I want you to understand something fundamental about personal transformation. You have to become the person who can handle the challenges before the challenges disappear. Most people have this backward. They say, when things get easier, then I'll be more confident, more disciplined, more creative. But that's not how life works. You don't get the easy life first and then become strong. You become strong, and then the difficult things become easier. You become the kind of person who can handle wealth before you get wealth. You become the kind of person who can handle success before you get success. You become the kind of person who can maintain health before you get health. This is why acting as if is so powerful. It puts the sequence in the right order. Instead of waiting for circumstances to change you, you change ahead of the circumstances. You lead with your development rather than following your conditions. I've seen this play out thousands of times. Two people face the same challenge. One says, I can't handle this, it's too much. The other says, I'm the kind of person who figures things out. I've overcome challenges before, and I'll overcome this one too. Same challenge, completely different outcomes. Ask yourselves, who do I need to become to achieve my goals? What kind of thinking, what kind of habits, what kind of responses would that person have? Then start being that person today, not someday in the future when everything is perfect. If you want to be financially successful, start making decisions now as if you were already financially successful. That doesn't mean spending money you don't have. It means adopting the mindset of someone who values their financial future, who invests instead of just spends, who takes responsibility instead of making excuses. If you want to be healthy, start making choices now as if you were already committed to your health. Don't wait until Monday or New Year's or after vacation. The person you want to become doesn't put off important changes. Becoming the person who can handle challenges means developing yourself even when it's not convenient, even when you don't feel like it, even when no one is watching. It means doing the right thing because it's the right thing. Start where you are. If making a phone call feels frightening, make the call. If speaking up in a meeting makes your heart race, speak up anyway. If putting your ideas out into the world feels vulnerable, do it anyway, even in a small way. Each time you act despite fear, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching yourself that fear doesn't have to be in charge. I remember working with an aspiring writer who had been talking about writing a book for 10 years. She had outlines, ideas, research, everything except actual pages. When we dug into what was holding her back, it wasn't lack of time or knowledge. It was fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear it wouldn't be perfect. I asked her, what would you do if you weren't afraid, if you knew you would eventually succeed? Her answer was immediate. I'd write every day, even if just for 30 minutes. So that became the assignment. Not to conquer the fear, but to write despite it. 6 months later, she had a completed manuscript. The fear never fully went away, but its power to stop her did. Taking action despite fear is like sending a message to your subconscious mind. I'm the kind of person who moves forward, even when it's uncomfortable. When you consistently send that message, your subconscious starts to believe it. And when your subconscious believes something about you, it works tirelessly to make that belief a reality. Let me tell you something important about character. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build, choice by choice, day by day. And one of the most powerful ways to build the character of a winner is to act as if you already have it. Character is the foundation everything else is built on. You can have all the goals, skills, and opportunities in the world, but without strong character, success will either elude you or destroy you if you get it. Character is what determines whether you keep your word to others and to yourself. It's what determines whether you cut corners or maintain standards when no one is looking. It's what determines whether you persevere or give up when things get tough. When you act as if you've already overcome every obstacle, you're building the character of someone who persists, who keeps their commitments, who maintains high standards regardless of circumstances. You're building integrity, resilience, discipline, the qualities that make success sustainable. Most people wait to feel successful before they act successful. They wait to feel confident before they act confident. They wait to feel disciplined before they act disciplined. But that's exactly backward. You have to act the part before you feel the part. The feelings follow the actions, not the other way around. If you want to build the character of a winner, start making the choices a winner would make. A winner takes responsibility rather than making excuses. A winner does the important things first, not just the urgent or easy. A winner keeps their word, especially when it's difficult. Every time you make a choice that aligns with the character you want to develop, you strengthen that character. Every time you choose ease over growth, excuses over responsibility, or instant gratification over long-term benefit, you weaken that character. It really is that simple and that challenging. Building character isn't comfortable. It requires saying no to things you want now for things you want more. It requires doing what's right even when there's a price to pay. It requires holding yourself to higher standards than others might hold you to. But here's the payoff. When you build strong character, obstacles become smaller. Not because they've changed, but because you've grown. The person of strong character looks at challenges differently than the person of weak character. They see opportunities where others see only problems. They find resources where others see only limitation. I want to talk to you about standards, not society's standards or your family's standards or your boss's standards. I'm talking about your personal standards, the minimum level of what's acceptable to you. Your standards determine your results more than almost anything else. If you're willing to accept mediocrity from yourself, you'll get mediocrity. If you're willing to accept excuses from yourself, you'll get results that need excuses. But if you set high standards and refuse to lower them, even when it's difficult, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one would blame you for compromising, that's when extraordinary results become possible. Acting as if you've already overcome every obstacle means setting standards based on where you're going, not where you've been. Most people do the opposite. They look at their past performance and set their standards just a little bit higher. That's a recipe for incremental improvement at best. But what if you set your standards based on who you're committed to becoming? What if you decided that, starting today, you'd hold yourself to the standards of the person you want to be 5 years from now? Everything would change. I'm not talking about perfectionism. Perfectionism is often just fear in disguise. I'm talking about the relentless pursuit of your best. I'm talking about refusing to use difficult circumstances as an excuse for compromising what matters most. Your standards reveal your true priorities. Everyone says health is important, but their standards around sleep, nutrition, and exercise reveal their true priority. Everyone says relationships are important, but their standards around communication, presence, and keeping commitments reveal their true priorities. When you create new personal standards, you're really creating a new identity. You're saying, this is who I am now, not this is what I'm trying to do. There's immense power in that shift. I'm trying to exercise regularly is very different from I'm the kind of person who never misses a workout. One is an activity you're attempting. The other is an identity you're claiming. Creating new standards isn't a one-time event. It's a daily recommitment. Each day presents countless opportunities to either reinforce your new standards or undermine them. Each choice either strengthens your new identity or weakens it. This is where the principle of acting as if becomes so practical. Instead of wondering what to do in a given situation, you simply ask, what would the person I'm committed to becoming do? And then you do that even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. Let's talk about the discipline of daily victories. Success isn't created in a moment. It's built day by day, choice by choice. When you act as if you've already overcome every obstacle, you focus on winning the day in front of you, not on some distant finish line. Too many people get overwhelmed thinking about their big goals. They look at the gap between where they are and where they want to be, and it seems impossible. So they either don't start or they start but quickly give up. But that's looking at it all wrong. You don't achieve big goals by taking big actions once in a while. You achieve big goals by taking small, consistent actions every single day. It's the discipline of daily victories. Each small win builds momentum. Each small win builds confidence. Each small win proves to yourself that you're the kind of person who does what needs to be done. This is where acting as if becomes a daily practice, not just a mindset. You ask yourself each morning, what would the successful version of me do today? What small victories would they ensure they win? And then you go win those victories regardless of how you feel, regardless of what obstacles appear. If you're building a business, the daily victory might be making 5 sales calls, or writing 1 page of your business plan, or having 1 conversation with a potential mentor. If you're improving your health, the daily victory might be drinking enough water, or getting enough steps, or preparing healthy meals for tomorrow. These daily victories might seem small, but they're not. They're the building blocks of transformation. They're the evidence you're giving yourself that you're becoming the person who can achieve your goals. They're the compound interest of personal development. Small investments that create enormous returns over time. The discipline of daily victories requires you to focus on what you can control. You can't control whether someone says yes to your proposal, but you can control whether you make the proposal. You can't control how quickly your body responds to healthy choices, but you can control whether you make those choices consistently. You can't control how others respond to your work, but you can control the quality and quantity of the work you produce. When you consistently focus on what you can control, 2 things happen. First, you experience more success because you're putting your energy where it can actually make a difference. Second, you build the habit of taking effective action regardless of circumstances. And that's the essence of acting as if you've already overcome every obstacle. One of the most important decisions you'll ever make is who you surround yourself with. Your environment doesn't just influence you, it can completely transform you. When you act as if you've already overcome every obstacle, you make different choices about who and what you allow into your life. Most people underestimate how much their environment affects them. They think they're immune to the attitudes, expectations, and behaviors of those around them. But that's simply not true. We're all deeply influenced by our surroundings, whether we realize it or not. If you're serious about becoming someone who consistently overcomes obstacles, you need to intentionally surround yourself with others who do the same. Find the problem solvers, the optimists, the learners, the growers. Find people who refuse to let circumstances dictate their actions. These people won't just inspire you. They'll normalize the very behaviors you're trying to develop. When you're around people who make excuses, making excuses starts to seem reasonable. When you're around people who find solutions, finding solutions starts to seem natural. It's that simple. Your environment is constantly reinforcing certain behaviors and discouraging others. This isn't just about the people you physically spend time with. It's also about the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the social media you consume, the news you follow. All of these inputs are shaping your thinking, your expectations, and ultimately your actions. Acting as if you've already overcome every obstacle means being ruthlessly selective about these inputs. It means choosing to feed your mind with stories of possibility rather than limitation, solutions rather than problems, growth rather than stagnation. I remember talking with a woman who was trying to completely change her financial situation. She had the knowledge, she had the plan, but she kept sabotaging herself. When we looked at her environment, we discovered that almost everyone in her life believed money was scarce. Success was for other people, and financial stability was just a matter of luck. No wonder she was struggling. She was swimming against a powerful current every day. When she gradually began to change her environment, joining a mastermind group of ambitious entrepreneurs, reading biographies of self-made individuals, limiting time with the most negative influences in her life, everything changed. The same knowledge and the same plan suddenly started producing different results. Surrounding yourself with success doesn't mean abandoning people you care about. It means being intentional about where you get your standards, your inspiration, and your belief in what's possible. It means recognizing that your environment will either support your growth or inhibit it. Now let's talk about one of the most important skills you'll ever develop. Turning setbacks into comebacks. Because no matter how positive your mindset, no matter how strong your character, no matter how high your standards, you will face setbacks. That's not pessimism. That's reality. The difference between those who ultimately succeed and those who don't isn't whether they encounter obstacles. Everyone does. The difference is in how they respond to those obstacles. And this is where acting as if you've already overcome every obstacle becomes not just powerful, but essential. When you face a setback, a rejection, a failure, a loss, you have a choice. You can see it as evidence that you're not cut out for success, or you can see it as a necessary part of the journey to success. One response leads to giving up. The other leads to growing up. Acting as if you've already overcome every obstacle means approaching setbacks with curiosity rather than defeat. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" you ask, "What can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What opportunity might be hidden in this challenge?" I've studied thousands of success stories, and I've never found one without setbacks. Not one. What I have found is that successful people develop the habit of extracting value from their setbacks. They mine their failures for the gold of experience, wisdom, and redirection. Think about some of the greatest comebacks in history. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he founded, before returning to lead it to unprecedented success. Walt Disney was told he lacked creativity before building an empire based on imagination. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her job as a television reporter before becoming one of the most influential media executives in history. What these people have in common isn't just talent or luck. It's the ability to see setbacks as temporary and instructive rather than permanent and defining. They refused to let failure have the last word. They acted as if they had already overcome the obstacle even when the evidence suggested otherwise. This isn't about positive thinking in the sense of denying reality. It's about positive responding in the sense of choosing the most empowering interpretation of reality. It's about asking better questions that lead to better actions. When you hit a wall, instead of asking, why can't I break through? Ask, where's the door? Or how can I climb over? Or should I go around? When you face rejection, instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Ask, how can I improve my approach? Who might be a better fit? What am I learning that will help me next time? Turning setbacks into comebacks requires resilience, and resilience is built through practice. Each time you respond to a challenge by looking for opportunities rather than excuses, you strengthen your resilience. Each time you refuse to let a temporary defeat become a permanent definition, you strengthen your resilience. So, here we are at the end of our time together, but hopefully at the beginning of a new chapter for you. I want to leave you with what might be the most powerful application of the principle we've been discussing. Living from the future backward. Most people live from the past forward. They look at what they've achieved so far, what they believe about themselves so far, what they think is possible so far, and they project that forward with maybe a slight improvement. That's a recipe for incremental change at best. But what if you did the opposite? What if you started with a clear vision of who you want to become, what you want to achieve, what kind of life you want to create, and then work backward from there? What if you made your decisions today based not on your current circumstances, but on your future vision? This is acting as if at its most powerful. It's not just adopting a temporary mindset. It's creating a new reality by living from it now. It's deciding that the future you want is more real, more defining than the past you've had. When you live from the future backward, everything changes. Your standards change because they're based on who you're becoming, not who you've been. Your decisions change because they're aligned with your destination, not your starting point. Your responses to challenges change because you see them from the perspective of someone who has already won, not someone who's afraid of losing. I'm not suggesting you ignore reality or pretend that obstacles don't exist. I'm suggesting something far more powerful, that you choose which reality you give authority in your life. Will it be the reality of your current limitations or the reality of your future potential? Will it be the reality of your past experiences or the reality of your future vision? Every great achievement began in someone's mind before it existed in the world. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every transformation started with someone who was willing to act as if what didn't yet exist was not only possible but inevitable. Your right tomorrow will be largely determined by your thoughts and actions today. And your thoughts and actions today will be largely determined by who you believe yourself to be. When you act as if you've already overcome every obstacle, you're not pretending. You're practicing. You're rehearsing. You're becoming. Start with small things. Act as if you're already a disciplined person and do what a disciplined person would do. Act as if you're already confident and say what a confident person would say. Act as if you're already successful and make the decisions a successful person would make. As you practice this principle in small ways, you'll build the muscle to apply it to bigger challenges. You'll develop the habit of approaching life from a place of capability rather than limitation, of opportunity rather than obstacle. Remember, this isn't about denying reality. It's about choosing which reality you give power to, the reality of your current circumstances or the reality of your future vision. Both are real in their own way. One exists in the physical world right now. The other exists in the realm of potential and possibility. But both influence your actions, your energy, your results. The greatest gift you have is the ability to choose which reality will guide you. Will you be guided by what is or by what could be? Will you be defined by what has happened to you or by what you are determined to create? Acting as if you've already overcome every obstacle doesn't mean the path will be easy. It means you'll walk the path differently. You'll walk it with the confidence of someone who knows where they're going. You'll walk it with the resilience of someone who expects challenges, but isn't defined by them. You'll walk it with the wisdom of someone who understands that who you become in the process is even more important than what you achieve. So I leave you with this challenge. Start living as if you've already become the person you aspire to be. Make your decisions from that place. Respond to challenges from that place. Set your standards from that place. The transformation won't happen overnight, but day by day, choice by choice, action by action, you'll close the gap between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. And one day, you'll realize that you're no longer acting as if. You're simply being who you've become. The future belongs to those who believe in it enough to live from it now. Be one of those people. The world needs what only you can bring. And it all starts with a decision. The decision to act as if you've already overcome every obstacle, starting right now, starting today.